right, welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means. The other one is just along for the ride. And I need to mute that. We are on Instagram Live now, if you were there. Tyler, what's up, man?
What's up? Happy New Year to you, all our peeps. But yeah, we're stepping into the Kardashian realm here on Instagram. This is pretty big stuff.
So, are you saying makeup tutorials are on in the works? You're gonna give some makeup tutorials there that we can do?
I mean, we could. Yeah, I think that's the nature of this platform. So we might want to start getting some ideas. I think the players would dig. Some we could do. We could
there
do
we
some
go.
eye black designs.
Some swag 101.
That's how you take over Instagram baseball is eye black makeup tutorials.
Heard it here first. We're gonna get Mike on that for sure, aka Lewis. Yeah, we were just talking about offline. We've been on sabbatical. We're like, hey, we have this break. Let's do some stuff. And then the break hit, and we're like, I don't want to do anything. It's not because we don't want to do anything, but there's really not a lot to talk about. Like
that, and just every day is kind of like you might have some family thing going on. Of course, it really felt like this year, man, between Christmas and the New Year, it was like a week of just like I don't want to think about anything else, and that was a good portion of the time that I had off. So yeah, and it was a little unexpected just how everything played out. But we're back.
When you work as hard as we do in our other part of our lives, like we have to take these breaks, and we're gonna just ramp up. We're gonna figure out our lives, and we'll come back strong February, March when baseball actually starts. But like everybody else is still doing their thing, right? You got DNVR. Susie's holding down the fort last few weeks. It looks like Patrick is taking a well-deserved break himself. The affected by altitude guys, Skylar and Evan, keep doing their thing. I don't know how they find things to talk about for an hour every week, but they're doing it. And the Rockies now, guys, they're coming out strong, man. They're consistent with their stuff. I love that. And Drew Kreisman, he's on his solo pod once a week, once every 2 weeks, talking about random stuff, diving into things. So like the Rockies content is there, and there's not a lot that we can do on the prospect side of things in this weird offseason part. So our bread and butter, why waste your time with us talking about nonsense all the time? So we're going to give you about 45 minutes now to talk about random stuff, give you some prospects, people, things to talk about. And Tyler's here, so some data is going to be thrown your way. We are going to act smart, at least when we can. So the talk of the town is, like I just said, like there hasn't been a lot to talk about for the prospect stuff, right? But the MLB.com released their possible breakout prospects in 2024. They said Robert Kalaz, which fantastic answer. Like he's going to probably start in Fresno, probably maybe get a late call to Spokane, but big outfielder. He just dominated the ACL DSL last year, so he's going to be a good one. He's the one that got the big money, right? The most in Rockies history, international money.
I think that might have been,
or was that Dion?
I think that was Dion Jorge, who Patrick Lyons. That's his pick to click. But Kalaz, I mean, I think there's more excitement there because you never see, and I forget who pointed this out, and I wish I could give credit. I saw a little clip on Twitter, someone hyping him up. You never really see guys produced for power, especially home runs in the DSL. Like you'll see a guy lead the league with like 7 home runs, and I think Kalaz had 7 home runs, and they play half a season. Again, there's just not a lot of home runs down there. So for him to do that is like, okay, this guy's a legit power prospect. He hit pretty well. The word on the street, he's got some speed. He can play center field. So 5-tool, Mike Trout, question mark?
Yeah, we might have a nice little battle for center in the future. Like Kalaz, he's 19, he's 18.
Yeah.
But like you start there and you just keep going up the list. You got Benny Montgomery, who's had a pretty solid year last year, minus these weird freak injuries. You got Jordan Beck, who can play center. You got Brenton Doyle. Like there's some talent in center that we haven't seen in a long time. That it's exciting. But Robert Kalaz, I love that pick. Like you said, Patrick chose Dion Jorge. Who's your dude? Like you're going to come out of left field with it. I absolutely love it. So where are you going with it? Who's your breakout prospect?
I mean, I've been since the trade happened in the summer. I've been like, it's just one of those that makes you kind of feel, or at least me, feel like warm and fuzzy inside. Jake Madden, it is one of those electric arms We saw that trade go down, get Jake Madden. You see those clips on Twitter circulate, and it's this dude who's skinny as can be, and he's just slinging mid upper 90s, and he's still figuring a lot out. And so there's a gamble in saying he's the breakout guy, but if he figures anything out, you're gonna be looking at a guy who maybe creeps into the top 10, definitely into the consensus top 15 for Rockies prospects. There's just so much upside there with again a mid to upper 90s arm. He's got the ability to spin the baseball, so I'm really hoping that he just figures out the consistency side of things. I mean, he has a clean delivery, but it's still you see plenty of guys. Chris Olivares comes to mind. Everyone was thinking about how clean his delivery was, but there's a lot of other just really precise points in the mechanics that are the real significant thing. And he's got to figure a little bit out. But if he does, that dude's going to be, talked about as a potential top of the rotation guy for Colorado.
Which we would absolutely love. And one of those trades actually working out. Like what we gained 5 pitchers last year, 6 pitchers in the trades between the Angels and Atlanta. And so if 2 or 3 of those work out, as a major league 2 or 3 years, that's a win. And so Jake Madden, you got Tanner Gordon, who's on the cusp too. My breakout, I almost want to say Ryan Ritter, but I think he had his breakout last year. Same with Yankiel. I think I want to go Connor Stain. Again, if you've been following us, Connor Stain's my guy. He clean, smooth delivery. He was starting to figure out how to get through the lineup 2 or 3 times by the end of last year. He was starting to learn how to pitch instead of just throw, which was super important in his development last year. Of all the Fresno pitchers I watched last year, Connor Stain was that guy. And just seeing his development just from the simple eye test. I don't have any of those cool numbers or anything like that. It's just the eye test and just what he was able to do and fight through some of the struggles he was getting through at the beginning of the season to the end. There's something there. I could see him kind of doing a Jared Candy up in Spokane, going 5 innings, most of even his long outings, through the lineup 2 times in the first 2 innings type outings. He was still trying to get you 3 or 4. He's a dog. He's out there constantly. Absolutely. His delivery is so smooth. There's something there with Connor Stain, and I think he's going to be my breakout. I do like you kind of wrote it as a possible on your list. Isaiah Cope, the dude from Ohio State that we got in the draft last year. He's going to be fun too. I like his breaking stuff. It's going to be fun to see how it develops.
Yeah, he kind of has that weird wiffle ball looking breaking stuff, so that'll be a lot of fun. But had to get the Connor Stain data out here since June 24th on through the rest of the season last year, which was only 9 starts. I don't know why
he was hurt. He was hurt in a little bit in there. I think August was rough for him.
Yeah, I think he had to miss a start at late August, I think. But 9 starts, and the ERA is not pretty at 4.34, but it's still good. Here's the kicker though. 51 strikeouts to 7 walks. Really, really clean there. And if you took out, there was one outing, 1.2, he gave up 9. If you took that out, I'm guessing his ERA in that stretch was in the low 2s. So he really did figure it out down the stretch. He was 7-1. We don't care about win-loss record that much, but 7-1 in those 9. Well, I guess actually had 10 games, 9 starts. So kind of misspoke a little bit, but 7-1 record. He was putting them in position to win every single time. Outside that one outing, I am not going to be able to crunch those numbers to take that one outing out, but I'm guessing from mid-June on, it was a low mid-2 ERA kind of thing. Was not walking guys, striking out a good amount. So Connor Stain is people were really high on him coming out of the draft, and things didn't run out of the gate, but he really, really pieced some things together. And it's kind of like Jake Madden, super live arm, tons of upside, and we saw some of that upside realized.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Every one of those outings that you talked about, except for 2, he went 5 innings plus. I'm looking at his baseball reference, and he finished the year with 2 back-to-back starts where that went 6 plus, and he only threw 80 pitches in those. You want to go back to the beginning? He threw 90 pitches in 5 innings. He threw 68 pitches in 2.2 innings in his 3rd start. 72 pitches in his second start. So his pitch count went down, his innings went up. So I think there's definitely something there. And Tyler, we're idiots. Like, he only made 9 starts because minor league starters only pitch once a week, and by the time you go from June to the end of August, that's only 9 weeks. So and his very last outing was a 3-inning relief appearance where he went 3 innings of relief and allowed 1 run. So,
and I think there was definitely some arm management injury stuff that went into that, because he missed, or that was on 10 days rest. So I think that there was a little extra there.
Yeah.
But
so Connor Stain, your boy, Jake Madden are the two that we're going to watch. I think we got to be watching these arms closely this year. Like, we need something on the cusp coming up. And we're going to talk about the prospects to debut, most likely to debut this year for the Major League Club down at the end of the pod. So nice little teaser there for you to stick around. But I mean, there's other names on here. Seth Halverson, you could go Zach Agnos, who might have had a breakout. I don't know if you count Agnos as a breakout or not, but you have these guys. Then you have still so many names since in Hartford and Albuquerque that we can't even get to. So there's gonna be some arm talk all year about these going forward. Is this new to me? So I saw Thomas Harding, his MLB blog newsletter thing. He's saying the Rockies are having an off-season prospect minicamp. Did you see this?
Yeah, and I mean,
this is new, right?
I'm not sure. I can't say for one way or the other, because I feel like I see things like this pop up every year, but I don't know if it's ever been so official like this.
Right.
But I saw a little Amador like weightlifting video the other day, and now I was like, all right, that kind of looks like Arizona, and it makes sense because he was in Arizona. But that's pretty cool to have all those guys together and hopefully do. We've been teased with the lab. Hopefully they're doing a lot of new wave kind of stuff with these guys to figure things out. Like, here's how you can really make things more efficient for yourself. But we'll see. It's nice for them to get that time though before all the big dogs roll into town. This gives them an extra like couple weeks to really prepare.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So I'm just gonna read Thomas's blurb here. So it's for a week in the middle of January 15th through the 19th. It is voluntary, but you can expect to see these names. These are one that he'd highlighted: Adele Amador, Julio Carreras, Dollander, Beck, Benny, Veen, Sterling Thompson, Drew Romo, Willie Mack, and Braxton Fulford. 3 catchers. Are we actually going to get a backup? I don't know. Invited 2 young pitchers coming back from TJ. So this will be really interesting, especially with the content that comes out from that, is Gabe Hughes and Jackson Cox. So we saw all those guys get TJ in the middle of June last year. They're starting to come back, ramp up. Maybe we see him in June again, but those are big ones. And just a little blur from Jesse Sender, the assistant director. It's a chance to get a group together and help give them the resources that they need both on and off the field as we head into 24. It's a mix of leadership with being the key term for what we're going to do off the field. Are the Rockies doing something? Like you said, the lab, this mini camp. You've been everybody we talked to has like the mental health coach. Like, they're saying they work with that during the season. Is there something happening? There's something cooking. Like, they were messing with the swings of Brenton Doyle and Tolia and Montero at the end of last season in the majors. This might be is this our Christmas gift? Is this our New Year's resolution for the Rockies? Like, hey, they're doing something cool.
It might be. You think about how many exciting bats that there are. Not all of them are going to click in any way. But you think back to those days where the Rockies truly had like 8 guys in their lineup who were threats at all times. And there's a chance that they could kind of get back to that. There's just so many options. There's a couple guys already there. There's a few spots that are going to be turning over. You think about, left field's uncertain. First base, kind of a weird spot. Second base is going to have some kind of weird, thing going on there. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you're just hoping that the guys that are playing there in a year, sometime this season, and then especially in 2025 are like those guys, and we can have a deep offensive group. It seems like they are trying to create this as like a generation of guys instead of like, all right, a couple here, a couple there. It's like 2025 should be like there hopefully like 5 new starters kind of in that lineup.
Yeah, I like how you said that generational thing. They're kind of bringing all these people up kind of at the same track. It'll be interesting. So mini camp, winter league starting to kind of close out. I think the Dominican is starting to do their playoffs or about to finish the playoffs or something. So like with that, how do the Rockies get better? Like obviously we still need a starting pitcher, right? They haven't done anything. No, they've spent just as much money as the Yankees and the Cubs on free agents in this offseason. Take that how you want. But they're obviously got to be adding a fifth starter, a fifth starter here. What are some of these names that are still out on the free agent list that are realistic? I'm big on Frankie Montas. I think it would be cool to come, but I saw he was connected or heard he was connected to the Reds, which kind of sucks. But who are some of these other names on this free agent list that could possibly not help us get to 100?
Well, and before I get into that, yeah, Frankie Montas did sign with the Reds, and
He
that's
did?
why
Okay.
Austin Wynns got designated for
Oh,
assignment, was
that
to
was the
make
move.
space
Okay.
for Montas. But yeah, I'm in that boat. He did get a lot. I think it was like a 1-year, $14 million contract, which I was like, for a guy who hasn't pitched in pretty much a year and a half, like that was a pretty big contract. But kind of makes sense. He's a dude. But I don't know if I want to say three. There's a few guys that I think the Rockies could be in connection with. Clearly, they're still on the market. They don't have this like huge, inferno of a market going for them. The kind of short list for me, Mike Clevenger, who I do think is going to end up getting a pretty big market and signing elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the four that I think are the most realistic, Michael Lorenzen, who we've seen, whether it's like real concrete and tangible connection to the Rockies, we've seen connection to the Rockies. Like people have said, Lorenzen's a fit, blah blah blah. Sean Manaea was with the Giants last season. I think he's a fit. We see this hype around him. He added a sweeper last season, and after that was like a 3 ERA guy. Really, really good stuff down the stretch for him. Zach Greinke is kind of an interesting one. I don't really support it because Zach Greinke is one of my favorite pitchers of this century, and by I mean 21st century, not like of the last 100 years. I'm not going back that far, but Zach Greinke he's such a cool guy. I want his legacy to just stay as clean as it can. And I don't know if Jamie Moyer stint in Colorado is what I want out of him,
I think I
or
agree.
for the Rockies. And then James Paxton, who I think we saw a little bit of the connection. Again, not entirely sure if that's, rooted in something or not, but there was some James Paxton to Colorado like murmuring, but again, could have been just people saying things because he kind of makes sense as a fit. He gets enough ground balls. He's a power lefty. The real thing for me is you want a guy who's going to stay healthy, because last season we got screwed with the health. You're down at one point. They were down all 5 of their opening day starters. So I mean Jose Urena, if you count him in that, but they were down pretty much everyone at some point. So I don't love the idea of bringing in like a James Paxton, who I think he's totaled like 100 innings the last 2 or 3 seasons. So he's not a health guy. But I really like the idea of bringing in a Lorenzen or Manaea. Wouldn't be mad about Paxton. Would love Greinke just for the fun of it. But again, I don't want that for Greinke.
No, not at all. No, nobody needs that. So, yeah. So who are you putting? Are they signing any of these guys? Or
I mean,
who would you like the most?
What I like the most, I'd probably go with Manaea. I don't really love Lorenzen. I think that there was too, small of a.
But he threw a no-hitter last year.
Yeah, and then he got booted out of the rotation at the end of the season. I just don't. He was a two-way guy for like the longest time. He finally started, rotation only, and it worked. But I think he's going to end up getting more money than. I think he's going to be one of those free agent signings that you look back and you're kind of like, yeah, I don't think that guy was worth of like 12 mil a year, getting like a $30 million contract, something like that. So I'd probably go Sean Manaea. Again, that sweeper got added. Looked really good. He has a much longer track record in the past of being a good starter. But yeah, I don't think the Rockies go this direction to address that rotation. I think they're going to add a minor league contract guy later in the season. I think there's a lot of options actually on that front.
I think so too.
There's like I published that article a couple weeks ago, a month ago at this point, maybe. There's a lot of guys. You think of Spencer Turnbull. I know you might have some opinions being in the near Detroit. go, deep down this list. You've got a Dakota Hudson, formerly of the Cardinals. Don't want to, manifest this, but Dallas Keuchel is out there. Carlos Carrasco. There's definitely a lot of guys out there that are probably going to have to take a minor league deal. And for them, the Rockies are like a team that they could very easily win a rotation spot. So I'm thinking they're going to end up getting a guy like that. One of those fringe guys, maybe getting a major league contract, but probably not. And that's how they're going to address the rotation.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. The Ty Block-esque piece, like adding a few more minor league pieces with that. Yeah, I think I agree with that. There's no, are they going to sign a major league contract for a starting pitcher? Probably not. Should they? Yes, but I don't. Who knows? And there's a whole bunch of questions that come up with that. And like you said, Wynn's got DFA'd. So Dude Man just made like $1 million for a week with the Reds, I think is how it worked out with his piece. Do we see Wynn's coming back now? Now his name's coming back. All the other backup catchers that we were kind of hoping for, they're with somebody by now. But Wynn's back out there. Do the Rockies bring him back?
I think it's possible, but the fact that I guess what happened with the Reds, his contract was actually, it was kind of a weird one. He was on the 40-man roster, but his salary actually wasn't guaranteed. I looked into more. It was like he was going to get paid for how long he was on the team, which is interesting, but he could have made over $950K, which basically was what the Rockies could have just paid him on a minor league contract from the get-go. So it makes me think they want to go in a different direction. For Wynn's, having come from two of these real smart organizations in the Giants and the Dodgers, word on the street, he was the new code. He came in, was like the code breaker, was trying to kind of introduce some stuff from those other organizations. He might have felt too much like the pop in the room of like, what am I didn't sign up to be like a coach.
I don't want
here.
this yet. Yeah.
But at the same time, that might be, something that he enjoys. So who really knows? I'm gonna guess that he doesn't come back, though. I think there's other teams that'll be like, hey, that's a good third catcher to have in the mix. We can give him a decent, amount of money to eventually be a backup for us at some point, but nothing, guaranteed.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, especially when you're adding those 3 catchers into that mini prospect camp. I don't know. Maybe there's something they're trying to figure out with that. Willie McIver? Question mark? I hope so. All right. And last free agent talk, brought it up. I was talking to a buddy. Basically our text messages are about Rockies. That's about all we talk about. He's kind of the jaded fan. I was all aboard the Rockies train. And then what's happened over the last few years, he just stopped watching, which that's fine. But we talk about Rockies still. And he's like, the Rockies should sign Rhys Hoskins. I'm like, no. Why would we do that? So I was like, all right, we're going to put this out on Twitter. We're going to see what happens. And out of 213 people that took the time to vote, 75% of them said yes, 25% of them said no. Why are 25% of us correct? Because there's no way you're on the Hoskins train. I know you're not. There's no way.
I will say, this is kind of a funny one because I voted yes. Because it's like if they signed him, it'd be fun. He's a really good hitter, huge power. I just want the Rockies to like have a more entertaining lineup. Like what really got me, I think for everyone, what got us all deep into Rockies baseball is seeing like crooked numbers put up. I love seeing, a random 13 runs in a home game. And without bats like a Rhys Hoskins, I think you're just not going to see as much of that. And that's what makes games fun for me. Okay. So that's kind of why I'm pushing for that. Realistically, it doesn't make any sense. So I will okay. That. It makes zero sense. They have Chris Bryant. They have Charlie Blackmon. If they didn't have one of the two of those guys, like I'd be like sending a tweet out every day, like let's get Rhys Hoskins on the Rockies. But you have a guy who's supposed to be the regular first baseman who's getting paid like $25 million. You have a DH who's going to get paid like, I forget, that was like $14 million or something too. And those are the two, those are guys who are locked into the lineup. You're not going to bench either one of them. And so I don't see where Rhys Hoskins actually fits in unless Chris Bryant goes back to the outfield. And I don't think they want to do that. So it makes no sense, but it'd be a ton of fun.
It would be fun. I think he would make the lineup better, but where the Rockies are, the two names you just mentioned, and then you have Montero, no more options left. Like he either plays or he's DFA'd or he's traded. He has to be on that opening day lineup until otherwise. Michael Tolia, we'll talk about in a little bit, and then Hunter Goodman, who you don't know. So you're adding another name into that 6-name debacle there. I don't know if it works. Like you, I like the idea of Rhys Hoskins. Give me Rhys Hoskins on a minor league deal all day. Like he can go down in Albuquerque and as soon as Chris Bryant hits the IL in July, like you bring up Rhys and we have a CJ Cron type deal. And then we get extended and we just play that whole roulette thing. Who was it? Mark Reynolds, who kind of started that whole thing when we brought him back and he hits and then he's extended. And then we did it with CJ and that kind of stuff. I'm on board with that kind of stuff, but like signing Rhys Hoskins to like a $5 million major league contract, I think would be absolutely ridiculous. He is a good hitter, but he did play last year. And the last time he did play, his numbers were not as good as his career. So you have to kind of take that effect. But then you also have Coors who, if you ask John Heyman, it just inflates the numbers, but we won't put that in account for the Hall of Fame vote, but it will affect my Hall of Fame vote. Fuck you, John Heyman. So it's interesting. It was a fun little conversation. It was a fun question. They shouldn't. They need a left-handed bat. I don't think Rhys is joining us.
And I think he'll get a market. Like he's not gonna, like you said, I think he'll probably get a little more than 5 million, but he's gonna get like probably 10 or less for the year. And a team's gonna say, hey, that's a guy who like literally hit 4th in our lineup. And you don't find guys like that on the free agent. There's not that many hitters on the free agent market, period. It's like Cody Bellinger, and then who's the next best hitter? And there's I don't know the answer to that because it's not pretty. That's not a pretty picture in the free agent market.
And this whole market is really weird, right? Am I wrong in saying that? Like we are 2 months away from we're a month and a half away from pitchers and catchers reporting. They report around Valentine's Day. And yet we have all these free agents, all these teams, still these needs. Like Cody Bellinger, there's some question marks to his year last year, but he performed last year, but is Scott Boras holding that back? But like, why isn't Rhys Hoskins signed? Like, why aren't some of these other guys signed at this point when you kind of that you kind of need him or not? It's a weird offseason. I don't remember it being like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a weird one because from the beginning it was a shallow free agency. Like there were a lot of good pitchers, and like some of them kind of went off the board like that. We were really waiting on Ohtani and Yamamoto, and then otherwise it was kind of like, who cares? Like there were a few guys.
Yeah.
You still have Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery out there who are pretty legit starters, but there was like 2 superstars, and they were the 2 Japanese guys on the market. I think a lot of stars beyond that, but just a very shallow class. And I think what does usually happen is you see a lot of those guys who are not like, guys who teams want to have in their future plans. The 1-year contract guys, I think a lot of them sit until this mid-January, early February time. We saw Chris Bryant sign it. I think that was early February, because I remember he came to the club after signing, and everyone's already set. He comes into the locker room with like whatever is his stuff, and he's like, "Oh, that's my locker." Okay. Last year, Brad Hand signed in like I think March. So I think we're going to see a big run these next few weeks, and I really hope we do, because I could use some news. I could really use some news.
We need something,
but also let the market develop, because that if the Rockies are going to get into the mix, it's not going to be because they have initiated the market. Like other teams are going to say, okay, I want Jorge Soler. Okay, I'll take JD Martinez. And that starts to trickle down these bats, because a lot of them probably do have offers right now, but they are like, we're not going to take an offer right now knowing another one might come in soon. They're kind of biding their time and making sure everything's like situated. But once some guys start to sign, it's gonna be quick. But there are a lot of like starters, and I don't mean starting pitchers. I mean like starting caliber players, like some starters, a lot of bats who could start in a lineup. Not your franchise changing guys, but there's a lot of legit players, and I don't know how this is all going to play out, because there's so many like okay players.
Yeah, it's we like you said, we need something else. I mean, speaking of news, do you want to touch on the Wander Franco stuff or no?
No,
I'm just playing. I would do that to you. So it start doing something, agents and teams, but like I think you're right. Right around February, March, spring training. Once they're all out there in Arizona trying to fight for a spot or something, team to come see them play will happen. Let's do winter ball update. let's talk a little bit about winter ball. We saw some good things. This is going to be brought to you by our one advertiser, Daily Controls, for all of your automation needs. Like I say every ad, I still have no idea what that means, but I think he's good at what he does. He does create things. He does problem solve. He's fantastic. So if you are out in Hartford listening to us, Fresno, he will travel out to you. He really wants to go to Denver. So if you're listening to Denver and you have a machine that needs to be fixed or created or trial and errored, call my man, Daily Controls, dailycontrolsllc.com. If you can't get that, just message us. We're open. We got you. The Winter League, man, it was kind of fun going through the stats last night because you can't like see a list of who's where. Like you literally, I had to click on the Puerto Rican League, click on that, go through the top 100. They only give 100 names on the Baseball Reference and see which names were connected with the Rockies. And like you caught one I missed, Angel Savelli. I completely missed him, but I got Anderson Pilar, which most people wouldn't have. Yeah. So props to me. But let's start in Puerto Rico. We had four players played there. I'm not sure. They're playing right now. Yes, they are. You got Zach Veen, Adel Amador, Vladimir Restitua, and Yankiel Fernandez. There's some good and there's some bad. Let's start with the good. Zach Veen, he's coming off of that wrist injury. This is his first real baseball action, which we've talked about with Luke back in the middle of the season last year. Like when Veen is healthy, you can tell. Like he produces. When he's injured, there is a direct correlation. Injured, production's not there. When he's not injured, he is. Go look at his Arizona Fall Leagues after that nice little break after the season. In 2022, he was fantastic. When he came back out of the start of last year, he was fantastic. Wrist started creeping up. All of his numbers dropped. Zach Veen in only 26 plate appearances is 23, has an OPS of 1.017. If he stays healthy, is he the breakout? Like, did we miss somebody with Zach Veen? Like, this is very, very happy news for all Rockies fans right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he spent almost a year in Double-A so far. Last year, people were, I think, understandably and irrationally saying, like, hey, let's get him on the opening day roster. That was a year ago. Right. And nothing good happened after that. But we are a year removed from like, I think the Rockies probably having some conversations of like, is this kid going to be ready in May? You know, it's that kind of thing. Like he could be here soon if things worked out. The wrist, I mean, I think the wrist was persisting for a long time, and it's a shame that he played through that for what seemed like, you know, like 8 months. I think he played through that in the fall league. He played through that in the spring, but there was enough rest that it was okay. But we are a year removed from that, of him being close to the big leagues. So if he comes in and just eats in spring training, I don't think there's a chance. Frankly, I'll say it to quash any, you know, maybe hopes out there.
Heard it here first.
He's not going to break camp with the team. It's just not going to happen. They have a roster crunch. He doesn't have to be on the 40-man roster. What's going to happen if he plays pretty well this season? Some point in the summer, definitely early fall, he might get that call up. I mean, not might. If he's playing well, he's going to get a call up later in the season because he has to get added to the 40-man in the offseason. So they might just do that a little bit early, take care of business there. But like, this is a dude. He still is such a dude at the end of the day. Every box is checked, and people are sleeping because he was playing respectably with a wrist that like didn't work. Like he was able to swing the bat, but he could not swing for power at all. And he was still getting on base like at a decent clip. He's so much talent there. It's there. To me, he was ahead of Adel Amador until this injury kind of stuff happened. Like we're forgetting this is a potential like franchise player, and he hasn't really done much to turn us away from that. That was out of it. That was within his control, I should say.
Yep.
The injury thing happened, and that has caused expectations to drop. But I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I will also jump on this. Hey, we're letting you know he will not be the center fielder for the Colorado Rockies. Just get off that as well. I've been saying that from the get-go. Zach Veen, healthy Zach Veen, I think it's there. It's obviously there. He's going to start in AAA. He's got to start in AAA, right? Like he's going to be in Albuquerque. Maybe a June, July, if he stays healthy, right? Like he's going to produce, especially in Albuquerque, and he doesn't put that pressure on him. That's kind of where this injury came of, with all that hype of the beginning of 2022. I got to perform. My name is out there. I'm connected. Hopefully he takes a step back and gives himself that time, that space, that grace to just go ball and just let your talent speak. So Zach Veen, hopefully the rest of his time out there. I mean, he's not going to spend much more time there because the mini camp is in 2 weeks.
I think he's. I mean, he's in. I think he's
probably already done.
Been done already. He's the one guy because his stint was like truly like rehab. I think that's the only reason he ended up going was get some reps, and so I think he played for like a week or maybe week and a half, and came back to the States or the mainland. I don't know what you call Puerto Rico. It's not a state, but it's also part of this country still technically. So, but he's back, and so I think he probably is already in Arizona. Getting the work. I think he took a little trip to like the Florida Keys with his family. I was doing some Instagram creeping. And I think he was having some family time. So now he's probably getting into baseball mode back in Arizona.
Getting that grind in. Adel Amador and Vladimir Restituyo. I'm big on Vladimir. His offensive numbers are still not good, but his defense, like some of the highlights that are posted out there about Vladimir are good. But Amador, 86 plate appearances, only a 672 OPS. But Dude-Man is still walking more than striking out. 15 strikeouts to 15 walks to 13 strikeouts with 7 stolen bases. So it's still there. It's Winter League. I'm not going to put too much weight on that OPS. With that, the eye is still there. But I think we need to talk about this. This one freaked me out. Like I posted that thing to Twitter about Yankiel being next up. But big concern with the strikeouts and walks and his plate discipline, which kind of went out the window when he got to Hartford, which again, hardest jump to do from high A to double A. But Winter League, 96 plate appearances, 541 OPS, 6 walks to 27 strikeouts. Concerning with only 1 home run. Quick math on that, 27 divided by 96. You're looking at a 28% strikeout rate. And that walk rate, it's roughly 8%, about what would be MLB average. Concerned. We know he's big. He's got the big pop, the big plate discipline. That was an issue. At what point do we get concerned about this from the 20-year-old Yankiel Fernandez?
I mean, I think he definitely gets the benefit of another like full year. He's still super young. He just turned 21. Like I think he's a New Year baby, like born on the 1st. So he just turned 21.
Just turned.
So absolutely plenty of slack left. But if he doesn't have a good year, it's now like, okay, he did what a lot of guys do, and that's kill the lower minors. But is he ever going to really figure out the upper minors to be an MLB regular? Like he's on the 40-man roster. I think it's almost a guarantee at some point he's going to play in the big leagues. But is he going to do so in an impactful way? And we need to see that happen. I'm not worried. Absolutely not worried yet, but that could start to creep very soon. We talked about that last year with Zach Veen. Kind of unfair to him again, as we just mentioned. But with that age factor for Fernandez, it's even greater than what it's been for guys like Drew Romo and Zach Veen. He was 20 in Double A, so I think that he deserves another go at that. But the Puerto Rican Winter League is kind of like a Double A, Triple A level league. There's plenty of former big leaguers and a few kind of active-ish big leaguers. So it's probably in that Double A, Triple A range. And the fact that he didn't really find his stride, it's like, is he going to be ready for Double A again? So that's going to be probably the biggest development in this farm system. Is Yankiel Fernandez going to stay in this top 5, top 10, or is he kind of going to be sliding back out and that outfield situation maybe gets more clear, even though less strong?
Right. Yeah. And Jordan Beck had the same issues at Double A too. This isn't just a Yankiel thing. Jordan Beck crushed High Spokane and still struggled with that. So usually, I mean, it took Drew Romo until July to kind of figure out what it was, and then he absolutely crushed the second half of the season. So there is hope there. I'm not freaking out just yet, but we'll give it some time there. Dominican League, we have 5 or 6 players down there. Julio, Coco, Vladimir played there as well, which is cool. Eulerys Montero, Anderson Pilar, and Angel Chavelli. I'm gonna let you talk about your boy Julio playing for the Gigantes. 117 plate appearances, 849 OPS, 17 stolen bases with 21 RBIs. Is he getting that 26-man spot, Tyler? Are you correct?
I think he could. Yeah, I guess that was on a podcast a bit ago.
You are on record saying that, yes.
But he also tossed in the 3 home runs. He really just changed the trajectory of his stock. Going into the offseason, it was like, okay, this is a guy who's going to be on the radar, but he didn't do great in Hartford. Smallston and Albuquerque was fine. But this was like he's going to be a big leaguer for sure. And he has a good chance to win that spot. The fact that Alan Trejo's still here kind of means he has the inside route on that. But if Carreras plays better in the spring, I mean, Trejo is sort of like, I think what they're doing because they like him, he's a great guy. I think they're giving him one more opportunity. Like, hey, we want you to come back strong. But if he doesn't, Trejo's spot is gone, and Julio Carreras is the logical guy to take that spot, unless they sign a Harold Castro to a minor league contract. Hopefully not. But Julio Carreras, he's checking a lot of boxes. He's fast. He can play all over the infield. I think there's some cleaning up that he has to do to really be a good defender, but he can play shortstop. He can play third. He can play second. So I really like that about him, that it's not just Alan Trejo is not like a great shortstop. And I think Carreras could be a great shortstop. That's to be seen, but the offense is kind of back. So I'm hoping he can break with the club, but at the same time, a little extra AAA time probably wouldn't hurt either.
And he was hurt for about 2 or 3 months last year too. So some of those numbers in Hartford were coming off that injury, going back to the Zach Bean conversation. Like, the injuries do affect people. Love those numbers. Coco's doing his thing. 106 plate appearances, 810 OPS. Like Julio and Coco, pretty much the same thing. With Julio a little bit more speed with it, but I would put Coco's defense right up there with Julio's. Vladimir Restituyo, he played out there, 657 OPS. Eulerys Montero, I think we need to spend some time on this man. 129 plate appearances, 23 strikeouts, 11 walks, 5 doubles, 0 home runs with a 538 OPS. So like I said earlier, this is a man who's pretty much guaranteed a 26-man roster spot. He has no options left. He is like that depth chart for first base, DH, that type of stuff. What do we take about this? 23 strikeouts and 129 is not bad.
No, so for him, that's deep. I mean, he was never a huge strikeout guy in the minors either. But
right,
what I want to have as my naive theory going forward is that this was still him trying to implement some swing changes.
I think so too.
We know the Rockies were trying to implement last season. This is a great time to kind of just experiment a little bit. And I think that should be said about all these guys. Like, at the end of the day, this is an opportunity to try things. Because this is not the most important baseball that they're going to play this year. But this is getting into that territory with him, though, where it's like, is he guaranteed a 26-man roster spot? I would say the odds on that are very high. But if he just doesn't take that step forward to potentially be a regular at the big league level, they might do something. So I do want to see him turn things around, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here, as everyone again really should get.
Yeah, and his walk rate is still 8%, so it's still there. So his eye's there. So the no power kind of
weird. That's
kind of supports your I'm working on some things type argument, though. So I think that's actually good because Montero's only does swing for pop. So maybe who's the hitting coach? I want to say it was Chichi, but what did they call him?
I think it's Andy Gonzalez. Oh, well, Bam Mullins, yeah.
Yeah, but Bam might have sent him something. But yeah, and then Gonzalez is out there coaching somewhere. 2 pitchers. These are only 2 pitchers I could find in our system that are playing Winter League are Anderson Pilar and Angel Givelli. Anderson Pilar, he is kind of all over. There's no real trajectory for him, but he's always kind of there. I think he plays for like every team. He might even got an isotope call up last year, but 11 games, 24 innings pitched, 1.2 whip, 25 strikeouts. So pretty solid there. And then Angel Civelli recently added to the 40-man, big live arm, doing his thing. 5 strikeouts, 5.1 innings pitched, 1.125 whip. So small sample size, but it's a sample size, and he's doing his thing against AA. Like you said, AA competition, AAA competition. Shoot, Fernando Tatis is in this league. So let's go major league competition. So Angel Civelli is out there doing things. I think Ramael Tapia, old friend, had a walk-off last night or 2 nights ago. So it's cool to see Angel Civelli. that gives me the most hope. Between him and Juan Mejia recently being added to that, I think that's huge to see that kind of piece from him.
Yeah, just knowing that there's a couple guys who have that stuff to get to the big leagues and are doing all right. With this again, this is probably a AAA plus competition because there's some dudes that are going and having a little bit of fun for a week or two.
Yeah.
So there's some tough at bats that are going to pop up here and there. So he's definitely doing well. But the biggest, I think, Winter League development is Mike Tolia.
Yep.
Down in the Mexican Winter League, 118 plate appearances, 853 OPS, 5 home runs, but the 38 strikeouts. And I don't know if Mike can get the math on that real quick.
32%.
That's like a 32% strikeout rate is in the Mexican Winter League. Again, these leagues are all pretty respectable. But if Mike Tolia is being tasked as a big league player, I think you have to perform a little bit better down there. However, again, the power is showing up. I like that. He went to Driveline recently, maybe trying to refine his swings a little bit. It should be swing. I don't think he can really get it done as a right-handed bat, but there's some signs with Tolia. And I think what we're going to see, though, this spring is Tolia and Montero kind of having like the duel. I think one of their fates will kind of be set in spring, and if not, very early in the season. I don't think either's going to have a long leash. But Mike Tolia, there's some positive signs, and we would love to see some of that upside click for him.
Yeah, agreed. I'm very happy with this development. Again, if you can strike out 30% of the time, but still hit 5 doubles, 3 triples, and 5 home runs in those times, what 13 extra base hits. So nobody's gonna be mad about that. And you play a Gold Glove first base. Like, I think that's something that Rockies fans, any fan, would be okay with, like understanding that's who you are. Like, nobody's gonna be mad at like you trying to change that. Like, if you're gonna strike out but still give us bombs and doubles, like, and do your thing, that's okay. And being okay with that big strikeout, I think, is fine. And I think also, just like with time, like players just get better with seeing professional pitching with time. And you got to imagine that strikeout stuff would go down, unless you're Javi Baez, but we won't get into that either. But that's your Winter League recap. Most of the leagues are in it soon. Like, players are probably going to take this next month or so off before reporting to camps, and again in February, that mini camp in middle of January. So it's promising. Like, a lot of these young guys are holding their own, so to speak, in these leagues with big guys that they're facing. So it's cool to see. I'm excited to see what happens. I think we have a competition for that utility with Coco and Julio and Trejo, seeing how that plays out in spring training. Veen being healthy, Del Amador continuing his prowess. Like, there's some conversations there. There's some storylines to follow as we break camp. All right, we said 45 minutes, but I want to talk about this, Tyler. Can we talk about these 3 pitchers to debut in 2024? We'll do our snake draft. We'll do our little thing here.
Okay, all right.
This is fun. This is where we like to go back and forth, our banter, so to speak. Weren't sure. Maybe we kind of do this with each position group going forward. So we're going to start with the starting pitchers. Our 3 picks of who's going to make their debut for the Rockies this year. Taking out Anthony Molina. I mean, Patrick Lyons kind of cheated last time we did this.
we didn't set the rules. We let him. He'll always bend the rules, but
yeah,
he's a journalist. He's good now. I'm not the one to make. I like what everybody does in that industry, but he's bending the rules with the Anthony Molina. Still pissed off about that.
Yeah, still a little upset. But we're gonna go give our guys our 3 picks of who's gonna make their debut, reliever or starter. So 6 guys. I don't know. How do we want to do?
I guess we'll get 3 each. We'll do.
We have some double ups too. So it won't be too bad. Let's start with the starting pitcher. You can just piggyback off what I said because I want to go first. Jeff Criswell. I think I said it last time on the last spot. I think he's next up. I think he's number 6, number 7, number 8 in the rotation, so to speak. You already kind of know what you have in Noah and Carl. You got Ty Block, and then it's Criswell. As fastball sits 94. His cutter had a 33% whiff rate, which I thought was pretty nice in Albuquerque. And if you go look at Jeff Criswell's game by game in the PCL, he ended September fantastic. There was something figured out in that time. Strikeouts went up, innings went up, pitch count went down. So Jeff Criswell, we traded Chad Smith for him. who I think also got DFA'd.
Yeah, he
So I
did.
think we won that trade, so to speak, at least as of now. Once he makes his major league debut. So I'm saying Jeff Criswell for just the simple fact that he's next up, but his stuff will also be there.
Yeah, and he'll have to figure the home run stuff out, get more on the ground. I think the Rockies are always working towards that with guys. So this could be a promising year, and he's a sleeper to potentially hit that fifth spot out of camp. Like I think he has the stuff to be up there with your Peter Lambert and your Noah Davis guys who are kind of fighting for that right now. But my number one is Tanner Gordon. He got to AAA and just kind of lit it on fire. He had a couple really good starts. We had learned in the or not in the offseason, midseason, and after that trade that his stuff is not anything special. He's kind of a tweener in a lot of ways. Like it's a lot of good and it's nothing great, but there's maybe some projection that's kind of arguable, like whether or not he's actually going to add more mass, throw harder. And if he does throw a little harder, he's going to be that mid-90s guy with pretty good command and a couple secondary pitches, a breaking ball, and I think he throws a changeup as well. I think he has very good odds to start some games for the Rockies. And between him and Criswell, it's sort of a toss-up as who might be next. They both are, could be on the 40-man any day, and not in the offseason, but during the season, it's like they need a guy. One of those is going to be that next guy up. I think they've kind of passed Carl Kaufman unless Carl like really does something this offseason to elevate his game. Ty Block maybe is kind of in that hybrid role always, but Gordon and Criswell, they want to be like, all right, these are starters. Let's keep them as starters as long as we can.
Agreed. My number 2/3, it's pretty much the same thing for each one of these guys, so I'm just going to double up. Joe Rock and Carson Palmquist. I'm going to give the nod to Joe Rock as my number 2 because he's a friend of the pod, but they're just big lefties with unique arm movements that have big strikeout numbers. Palmquist will have a little bit longer road. He's going to probably start in AA this year, where Joe Rock did all AA last year, so he's definitely next, kind of closer to that. But it's just having a big strikeout guy coming out of the pen, trying to figure out your middle release, those 1 to 2 innings where you don't know what you're going to do with once the starter goes out. I think a Joe Rock and Carson Palmquist can come in and kind of fill those in with big strikeouts, but then also give them that rotation. We've seen the Rockies kind of like to ease into bringing in players. They kind of did with Noah Davis. They did with Carl Kaufman. They're not just going to throw them into the fire. So I think Joe Rock and Carson both have that ability to come in and do that. And their strikeout numbers are the best in the system. Like it's insane what they can do, and the lefty piece. So looking at kind of what the roster kind of gives in the prospect list, I think those two are kind of the same vein, but one just a little bit older than the other, professionally, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think both those guys are sort of some of the brightest hopes in the system. Just there's a lot of boxes checked, and sort of that theme with Criswell. Maybe nothing exceptional about them. I think that what they're doing is combining the sum of their parts to just dominate in the minors. But as they go, things might start to level out. But I think both will still be productive and probably crack a big league rotation very soon. So I think those are good picks. I'm going to go with another lefty. Ryan Rollison is my 3. Again, had Criswell as my 2. Rollison at 3, the ghost of Rollison. He is, who knows if he's real anymore. But we did get a report, actually, I think yesterday, from Thomas Harding that Rollison is throwing again. He had another shoulder cleanup. Some of these procedures, like we don't hear about them like at all. The guys just disappear, and it's like, what happened to him? Like we don't know what happened with Sam Weatherly and McCade Brown. They're just kind of gone. And it happened with Ryan Rollison, but we do know now he is throwing. You would think by spring training he's going to be like ramped up a good bit. And at one point he was like the 6th starter. He was right there on the cusp of pitching in the rotation, and that was when they had a healthy rotation.
Yep.
So this is someone I don't know how highly they think of him anymore. Who knows what this shoulder injury has really done? He might not be a even like a low 90s guy anymore. He might be like 89, 91. Whereas you ideally want to see him like 92, 94. But the pedigree's there. Great feel for that breaking ball. That's what got him drafted in the first round. So if he can just really come back, build up that strength again, maybe this is the shoulder procedure that he needed to get back to himself. So I'll go with Ryan Rollison. I think at some point this season he will at least debut, whether or not that's in the rotation or the bullpen, but kind of viewing him as a starter for now.
And I think you said the same exact thing this time last year, which just sucks.
Yeah,
but
yeah, probably.
He's still there. He's still on that talent list, and he is throwing that. That was a nice update by Harding that he gave out there. We're definitely hoping the best for Ryan. Relievers. I'm gonna go first too with this. Dugan Darnell. He's on the cusp. He finished in AAA last year. He's looking at kind of the list of relievers that haven't made their debut. He's like number 2, number 3 next, and he's the whole reason we have this pod still going. So we got to give him a nice little shout out to Dukes there. But his stuff plays. Like, it's not just us hyping him up. He has done it everywhere he's gone. 25% swinging strike on his changeup, which was 9th in the PCL with over 100 pitches last year. And 44% whiff rate with that. So that changeup is nasty. That was something he was perfecting last offseason. He worked it. He was telling us last year, like, he was figuring out how to pitch and how to keep batters off balance instead of just having, I'm going to throw first pitch fastball, second pitch fastball, third pitch changeup. He was working on how to actually pitch against the hitter that was given, and he figured that out. And that changeup is absolutely insane. Just the drop that it has. It's one of my favorite pitches to watch. And so his talent is there. I'm going to be super hyped when he's in purple. It's going to be dope. Michigan's going to be rolling over here. But he's definitely next. He's got to be next on that list. Kid Dugan the props.
I think he's a good start in AAA away from, like, all right, sure, let's give this kid a shot. I mean, he's defied every expectation, and there's legit MLB stuff there. Like that changeup split change that he's got is an MLB pitch, to say the least. It's really good. So I'm excited for him. He was my number 2 relief pitcher, so perfect. You snagged him. I got to snag one away from you now. Juan Mejia. This is kind of one of the obvious ones. He's already on the 40-man, so it's sort of cheating. But he just has such an explosive arm, and his breaking ball could be a real weapon. Potentially an upper 90s guy with a real hammer breaking ball. So watch out for Mejia. He could get the job done very soon. That control stuff is a little weird. He's got to clean that up, but the stuff is there to be like a back of the bullpen kind of guy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see him develop. I'm going to go out on a limb. This is my hot take. I think he does make quick work of Albuquerque, and I think he's in purple in late July, August. No. Reverse that. He's going to make quick work of AA. He'll be in Albuquerque by June, July, and maybe a September call up. His stuff is just too nasty not to. And then I know you love this guy. I might have taken him from you, but Seth Halverson was the one draft pick that made his way up the ranks. Did he pitch AAA last year?
Not quite, but he got
AA. He was there. That the triple digits. Nobody's in the system now that Michael Peterson left. I don't think anybody's in the system with triple digits. Halverson is that guy. It'd be sweet to have like Justin Lawrence and Halverson kind of go back and forth with those different looks. Big different power would be sweet. Obviously the Rockies see something at Halverson. I think there's a quick trajectory to the top. Wouldn't be surprised if he started in AAA, but they'll probably start him with AA just because I think the competition and what the PCL is, you got to be a little bit worried about. So I think he starts in AA, makes quick work, and I can see him in purple too pretty quickly, just the way they ran him out there last year.
Yeah, and that'd be awesome to get a draft pick like in the big leagues within.
It'd be so sick.
A year and a half, like by the end of that first full season. He definitely could. And last year he touched 101 a lot in college. Not a lot, but he touched 101 multiple times in college, hit 100 a good bit. There was inconsistency in college, so I'm curious to see how like the pro like arm care and all that works out for him. Like, because if he can sit routinely like 98 to 100, he'll hit the big leagues very, very soon.
That would be so much fun, man. That'd be so much fun.
And it would be a real like boost to like what everyone thinks about their draft and their scouting department. Like, I think they do a good job on that amateur side, and they just don't get credit because so much is stuck together with the Rockies of not being great. But my third reliever is Brendan Hardy, who we talked about on the Patrick Lyons pod about a month and a half ago after the Rule 5 draft. Taken from the Mets in that minor league section of it. He pitched in AA last year in just a couple of outings, but it's been rock solid everywhere he's been. The control is pretty good. He's in and around the strike zone a lot, but the strikeout stuff it's pretty ridiculous. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, how many strikeouts he got last season, but it was close to like 2 an inning. Was sort of his pace. He was going crazy with the strikeouts. So he's someone he's 93, 96, really good breaking ball. So I'm hopeful that he can be that like minor league Rule 5 guy that actually makes an impact on the big league team. They have a lot of guys who do well in the minors and contribute valuable time, stability to those minor league teams. But I think Hardy can be that guy that they take and actually makes a big league kind of impact relative. It's hard to guess whether guys are going to like really hit the ground running at the big league level, but I think he's a good bet to do that.
I think you're right with that. Yeah. Across those 3 leagues. So Mike got you 54 strikeouts, 34 innings pitched across 3 leagues. It's A, high A, double A. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. He played in the Arizona Fall League. He did 4 strikeouts and 5.1 innings. So probably starting double A. I think the big strikeout number guys, I mean, obviously, right? It's kind of always the thing. I think they're going to make the biggest thing because the Rockies don't really have that out of the pin. They had the ground ball guys, but we need the strikeout guys. Just come in and get 1 or 2 quick outs and find a way to get third. I think would be huge. So the swing and miss, the whiff rates, those kinds of things. Like I said earlier, we're going to be watching these pitchers, I think, pretty closely this season. Just seeing where they are. That draft class is huge. Where the development of these guys that they've drafted over the last few years, like Jaden Hill, like he was good in relief in the Arizona Fall League. So where is he coming in? Jared Candy, he's out there. Carson Palmquist. Like there's a lot of talent happening. And there's a whole bunch of names I just didn't say that were in those minor. Michael Porshecki going down to Fresno. Like it's there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to make that call. But we're going to do something special. I have no idea. We need to get the team on it when Dugan Darnell makes his debut. I going on record too. no pressure. We love Dukes, but when he makes his debut this year, we're going all in on something. No idea what. Hopefully it's in Detroit.
Another song.
Yeah, we need to get Mike or John Snodgrass back on here. We'll try that. So let's wrap it up here. No idea what our content looks like going forward. No idea when we're going to be able to do this. We're talking, we're figuring things out. But when things ramp up, we'll ramp it up a little bit. I think there's some prospect talk we can still go into. But once the season starts, we'll try to go weekly with the minors going forward, bi-weekly, and maybe until then, just keep with us. We'll do the best we can, do the best what we can for you all. I don't think I have any plugs. BlakeStreetBanter.com. None of that happening on there. Go find us on all the socials. That's all I got.
We'll really start ramping up on Twitter once we see us like tweeting like 20 times a day again, then you'll know the pods are probably coming a little bit.
We're back, baby. We're back. So take care. Be easy. Support us. Support your people. Support all of Rockies media. They all do a fantastic job. And as always, go Rocks, minor league affiliates. Woo!